Guys, what we're basically doing today is to search for the tastiest biscuits ever on the playground. Are you guys ready? Yeah! The search starts in 3, 2, 1, let's go!
Sona biscuits are rich in flavor, nourishment, and excitement for kids of all ages. Grab a bite today.
Good morning, viewers. You're welcome to Educare Magazine TV. Today we are still looking at the how we can improve the quality and standard of education in Nigeria through policies and regulations. And this morning with me is Mr. Jeff Ighodalo. You're welcome, sir.
It's my pleasure. Good morning.
Good morning. Please just let us know a few things about you and what you do in this educational sector.
Okay, it's nice being on this TV program. My name is Ighodalo Jeff, and I'm the Executive Director of Purple Admiral Foundation. Purple Admiral Foundation is an organization that is interested in promoting basic education in Nigeria, and we bring about interventions through partnership with governments. So in the last 5 years, Purple Admiral has been partnering with the government, especially at the basic education level, that is from primary 1 down to GS3.
Okay.
So that's what we've been doing through intervention, monitoring and evaluating government interventions at community levels.
Okay, so this is just the best topic for us with you today.
Yes, please.
How the standard of education and quality of education can improve through policies and regulations in Nigeria. Now let's go. How can policies and regulations encourage parental and community engagement in education, and what benefits can it bring to the overall quality of education?
One of the things we always articulate as civil society actors, which I'm part of, is that we need to engage parents if they have to be part of the policy and regulatory framework in education. So how do we do this? We want to encourage an open system where we have collective discussion about policies. If parents are to actively participate in policy, because they should, you can't make policies for people, they have to be part of the policy implementation, policy development and all this. So for them to be part of it, you have to ensure that you engage them through regular communication, through stakeholder engagement. And this will help to ensure that policies and regulations have that quality of access and equity.
Yeah.
Access and equity, that is very paramount in policy and regulations for education.
Okay, so what research initiatives can be undertaken to generate evidence-based insights that inform policy formulation and decision making?
Now, it's very vital that
in Nigeria here.
Okay, it's very vital that you carry communities along, you carry families along whenever you want to implement policies and regulations. So recently, there's this community-based framework where you go into the community,
Okay.
divide the community into focus groups, and try to identify their needs.
Okay.
So you go into the community. So if we, for example, we're trying to look at a policy that is targeted at girls or marginalized groups, each community is unique. So we take Nigeria, we don't just see Nigeria as whole. In that context, we have to look at studies that focus on community needs. Go into the communities, identify their unique needs, their felt needs. And how do you identify that? You can use different methodologies, one of which could be focus group discussion, where you have a robust conversation with them, ensuring that they give an input into what the issues are. So if we're going to be talking about girl-child issue, maybe a number of girl children are out of school, part of which is something we need to tackle, which policies should address, which regulations should address. You need to know why are they out of school.
Okay.
So through these methodologies, through research, getting information from the source, from the communities themselves, from families themselves, you're able to now put this together and ensure that you have a robust data that can ensure proper input.
Okay, I think this is a good initiative, but we've had cases in this country where certain areas or certain regions do not believe in the Western education, and they don't believe in all this sending children to school and all that. And this has resulted in some time ago in some fracas, killings, destruction of infrastructures and all that. And you're talking about going to these communities, forming focus groups within the community and discussing these issues. I don't know how that will be possible or successful in these areas. Or is there any kind of security that is provided or is going to be provided for you to carry out this initiative in these communities without being attacked, without destruction of probably your facilities and all that, and even opposition in the face of those who don't believe in education, especially for the girl child and all that?
I'll quickly want to add that we do not want to measure education based on Western values alone.
Okay.
So in this context, education could even be education for the Almajiri group. What we're interested in is to ensure that people have access to education. And education is not just within the construct of Western alone.
Okay. So that answers that question. So how can policies and regulations foster collaboration and partnerships among different stakeholders in the education sectors, including government agencies, educational institutions, civil society organizations, and international partnerships?
Okay, thank you so much. So policy now, for me, when I'm looking at policy, remember I did talk about access and equity.
Okay.
So if we're looking at access, our policies should begin to look at how children access education. Access in the simplest form is, let's look at like a fruit basket.
Okay.
You place a fruit basket somewhere within a room and you encourage children to go and pick from it. That is access, ensuring that everyone is able to reach that location and pick from it. But beyond access, we also want to ensure that there's equity. Of course, some children will be faster than others.
Yeah.
And so they get there. If you don't moderate it, they pick more than someone else doesn't have anything. So we want to ensure that beyond just access, everyone have this fair opportunity to also benefit from education. So now to create synergy collaboration with all the stakeholders you're trying to say, it's one of the fulcrum is ensuring that we articulate all the things that need to form the basis of our policy and regulations. For me, one of the aspects I am very particular about is teacher competence and regulation. So teacher competence and regulation, in the past it used to be just domiciled in a Ministry of Education, sending out circulars and all that. But the truth about is that if you want to get results, if you want to assess teacher competence and all that, you will not just leave it in the hands of the government. The communities have to be involved. Of course, we have different processes, different policies that are now encouraging community involvement. One of it is the Homegrown School Feeding Program, the National Homegrown School Feeding Program. It's a policy of government where you try to involve community members in ensuring that hunger, which is a basic issue that makes children not come to school, is tackled. So implementing this particular policy means working with different stakeholders. at community level, be it the farmers markets, be it the vendors that cook the food, civil society organizations that come in to monitor the implementation of the program, school heads that ensure that all the data is, available to all critical stakeholders who are doing monitoring, school-based management committees that are set across schools to ensure that this project is implemented properly. So this way, there should be a lot of sensitization, encouraging communities, civil society actors, governments to dialogue and identify the key issues and improve on it. If we do this, we'll be able to ensure that the policy is not only there, but working. The regulations are addressing the main issues and ensuring that if there are loopholes, these are tackled as and when due.
Now, these policies, educational policies and regulations have been in place for how long?
The first policy came up in 1977.
Okay.
However, over time it's been reviewed. We have a policy that was last in 2011, and as of 2022, January, the Ministry of Education was talking about reviewing it.
Okay.
The policy in question is the National Policy on Education. We're talking about reviewing it, particularly at the secondary level, secondary education level.
Okay.
So it's more like a plan to review. But unfortunately, policies should be reviewed every 5 years by recommendation. But if you look at between 2011 and 2022, you find out that that's about 11 years. So that's a concern in policy, implementation and regulation.
Okay, so it also gives me this concern. These policies have been in place, but we have decay in this sector, gradually getting from 100% to almost 0% now. What would have happened? What would have happened? Is it that the government was not actually monitoring? Is it that these policies were not actually being implemented? Is it that there was not enough funding for monitoring and implementation? What would have happened? Because if these policies have been in place from 77 to about the 1980s, education was still, there was still some kind of sanity in education system and the kind of standard and quality. But if you ask me, from the 1990s, everything started coming down, growing down, decaying and degrading to this level where we are, that we cannot quantify the standard of education here in Nigeria. What would have happened?
I think you've listed a number of issues and they all have happened. However, I would also say that community ownership is reducing. Communities are not taking part. They are not holding government accountable enough.
Were the communities holding government accountable before now?
Communities were more involved in the past. If, for example, you see a child not in school, you want to know why.
Yeah.
But these days you go on the street, you find out that children are not in school. How would that child access? How would that child get equity if he's on the street? So communities are not really as involved. If you are holding government accountable, you want to know how the budgets, because budget is part of the policy.
Yeah.
How is the budget implemented? In what community? You want to know who is even the implementing organization, maybe the organizations that you have already engaged. Exactly. So you want to find out all this. The more we ask questions, the more we're able to review these issues and reduce the decay.
Okay, so how can policies and regulations address the issue of brain drain, and promote the retention of highly qualified teachers within the Nigerian education system? Teachers now is the focus, my focus now, because how do we achieve that?
Unfortunately, teacher certification and continuing training is really lacking. So that should be one of the things policy should address. If you look at the NC program, for example, you find out that, which is expected to be the minimum for which teachers can teach, perhaps at the primary level, you find out that the review of the curriculum is near missing. So if a teacher uses the same content of 20 years in a 21st century, evidently that person will be a misfit. So our curriculum should reflect this to ensure that teachers are competent. This week I was doing a monitoring in some schools, and I was really concerned when I got to a particular school in terms of I tried to observe the teachers, and you begin to find out that the method of teaching, of course, it's supposed to be pedagogy, the art and science of teaching children. However, to ensure that policies are responsive in the 21st century, we need elements of andragogy, because children have their own experience which teachers must tap into to ensure that they're able to actively support education. I'm not very sure, of course, the UK is presently trying to woo teachers from Nigeria, as we heard. But how much competence do these teachers have is another kettle of fish. So we need to restructure teacher training to ensure that they are able to get the skills, digital literacy, critical thinking, entrepreneurial skills that can help to drive education.
Okay, thank you so much. We'll just take a short break. We'll be back shortly. Stay tuned. Don't go away. Thank you. You're welcome back, and we're still talking about the improving standard and quality of education through policies and regulations in Nigeria. And here with me is Mr. Jeff Ihadilu. And we've been talking about collaborations, parent involvement, open community communication sessions, and all that. We're going to continue this conversation. And Mr. Jeff, how can policies and regulations promote a culture of innovation, creativity, and critical thinking in Nigerian schools? Innovation, creativity, and critical thinking in Nigerian schools.
So how can policies promote creativity? For you to promote creativity in the policy, you have to involve everyone. You have to do what you call research studies to see the direction to which policies across the globe is going. Nigeria does not want to be behind the scene. We want to see how we are moving in line with others, however reflecting on our unique peculiarity. So if you must create a policy that is responsive and innovative, you have to adapt it to your own reality. So if, for example, we're talking about digital literacy, entrepreneurship as a curriculum, in the curriculum must be addressing our own peculiar needs, not those of maybe the United States of America or other countries, so to say. So in the process of doing this, again, we want to collaborate. We want to do cross-sectional, cross-country collaborations. We want to learn from what others are doing right and want to adapt that. We want to see what is happening in Tanzania, what is happening in South Korea. You want to see developing countries. What are they doing right in terms of their curriculum, their policies, and how this can also be domesticated to suit our own context.
So what do you say about schools having various curricula? Some schools have Nigerian curriculum, French curriculum, British curriculum, American curriculum, all embedded in one school, in their curriculum per se.
Okay, personally, I do not have a problem with this. Where you have children exposed to different other curriculum, as long as they are also taking core Nigerian curriculum. So of course, this is blended learning where you can introduce other kind of curriculum. Of course, most of the children may want to be global citizens, moving across board. So I do not have any challenge with having that as a blended opportunity.
Okay, so what measures can be taken to address the issue of corruption in the education sector and ensure the efficient and equitable distribution of resources? You're smiling, you're laughing. The corruption in this system to ensure equity and the distribution of resources equally.
Okay. Tackling corruption is a tough one, but ensuring that institutions are strengthened, there's a political will to tackle it. That's is a big statement, political will.
Yeah.
However, we want to have conscious public community members who hold government accountable. So the more we begin to hold government accountable, perhaps it would help to reduce corruption to the barest minimum, but it is what it is.
Okay, is what it is. So okay, let's leave it at that level because it's a big issue. It's a big issue. How can policies and regulations promote the use of indigenous languages and cultural heritage in the education system, while also ensuring proficiency in English and other global languages? Encouraging our indigenous language.
Our policy should also encourage that sincerely, where at school level, you're able to teach a child in mother tongue.
Okay.
It should be encouraged. If we do this, in a plural setting like ours, where maybe somebody who is teaching in Lagos, the person may be from up north, and the person does not understand Yoruba, there should be a way to complement it in such a way that subjects are taught simultaneously in the local language and in English. If you say this is cup, you say it in the local language and in English. So that way, it will help to ensure cultural, involvement of children.
I got somebody called and said, I want my child to do few weeks internship, not the regular school internship, but just few weeks with an organization where he learns A, B, C, and D.
Yes.
And I said, okay, fine. And the next question was, are they going to pay him? Are they going to give him transport allowance? And then financial issues come in. And you look at some families that are not even that below average, and they cannot afford that. It means that their child, because no company will want to pay the child for coming to learn, because even the IT stuff is even difficult for companies to even pay the allowance. So how will this, how will this help if we have to incorporate this, allowing these children to come to some industries to learn for a few weeks and all that, but there are no more finances to support that? Are there organizations that want to take up that, to fund that or something?
At the moment, I do not know of any, but COVID has also thrown the opportunity of working remotely. So even if the child in question doesn't have to be physically present all the time, that task which can be assigned to be delivered. For example, the child is assigned to a consulting firm where you work with documents. I say, please try to edit this. You send it in. That helps that child to build critical thinking and ability to edit, for example. So we can begin to look, because we need to take these baby steps. The policy, the regulations as it is now does not give us that opportunity. So we need to take those little baby steps by encouraging industry to partner with the government to ensure that students are able to at least learn skills. So in this situation, it's always an issue where you now begin to think about how do you fund coming to work.
Exactly.
But at the moment, the much I know, I do not know any fund that is available on the policy or regulation that can.
But I think some agencies can take up that.
They can.
And focus on
certain communities to look in that direction.
And all that. Yeah, we should be able to look at the direction. Thank you for staying with us today. We've been on this conversation with Mr. Jeff Igodalo, and we've talked extensively on improving the standard and quality of education through policies and regulations in Nigeria. And of course, he's enumerated different ways and strategies that the policies and regulations in Nigeria can be implemented, evaluated, monitored, and also reviewed at all times. Thank you once again. My name is Dr. Mrs. Orie Van, Educate TV. Thank you for staying with us. See you next time.